Happy Tuesday! My name's Nick.
And my name is Alan.
And welcome
Into the dungeon. Well, finally, for all you D&D and TTRPG lovers, we are about to embark on a new adventure, a new campaign, a new season. I will be the DM this time round, as we said all those years back, probably
2 years ago.
2 years ago now, that we would be alternating DMing duties, as Nick did the first one, the great campaign of the Dragon of Ice, Spire Peak. Now it is my turn to carry the torch and become the DM for the new campaign. A lot of you may know, because you've been listening to our behind-the-scenes episodes in Buy Me a Coffee that we used to record, or perhaps you've been hanging around in Discord, where we also mention stuff that we'll be doing in the future, or perhaps you even stayed to the very end, where we talk about a few things. For those of you that stay, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, if you don't know, the new campaign is going to be the Road to Baldur's Gate.
Ooh, I'm excited.
And what is the Road to Baldur's Gate? Well, it's a short series of encounters that were published in the D&D Beyond site under Encounters of the Week, I believe.
Yeah, I remember seeing those years ago and think, we're going to have loads of mini-series.
Yeah. But it's kind of a precursor to Descent into Avernus. And I don't know, I remember seeing the campaign and thinking it would be interesting to run it. It was meant to be like a small thing, perhaps a few weeks, but I'm sure it's going to be much longer than that.
Yeah, you're fleshing it out, aren't you?
Yes, apart from that, I will be fleshing it out and adding certain encounters and certain adventures to it that are not necessarily part of those encounters that you find in D&D Beyond. Very much like you did in your adventure. And also I'll be featuring certain adventures or one-shots from other creators, even indie creators that are part of the community of TTRPGs. For sure, there'll be an appearance from an adventure from Beth of D&D Duets. I believe it's a husband and wife that writes these adventures. And this one in particular, that will probably be appearing on episode 1. Depends how long it takes, but yeah, most certainly it will be appearing on episode 1. This adventure, short adventure, is called The Not So Haunted Library.
Ooh, spoilers.
Spoiler alerts. But I have had to tweak it to make it fit in our setting, which, by the way, starts in Waterdeep. So I've tweaked it around, made it fit our setting and the campaign we're going to play. But yeah, it's inspired by their one-shot.
I think you've got stuff from Albion's Almanac as well?
Yes, there's some stuff I'd love to do from them as well, but that's still not fleshed out, and perhaps it'll appear way down the line. Let's see how long. Maybe you die day one, I don't know. Let's see.
Quite possibly, and I mean, we'll get into the reasons for that when I introduce my character.
Yeah.
But I mean, if there's one piece of advice I can give you from having run the Dragon of Ice Spire Peak, don't plan too far in advance, because you never know what the other person opposite the table is gonna do.
Sure, this campaign might be a bit more linear, because if you don't know, the Road to Baldur's Gate basically is you start in Waterdeep, and for some reason you want to get to Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, and we've got a good reason, but you're gonna have to wait.
That's right.
To find out what that is.
Exactly. So it will be a bit linear in that sense. You are actually traveling towards a certain place from point A to point B. So it'll be easier for me, I think, to plan ahead, because you won't be as open in your choices as I was perhaps playing the Dragon of Ice Spire Peak.
Oh, so you think?
Well,
I mean, if we think about epic journey adventures like Lord of the Rings, that was 3 massive movies, and a hell of a lot of stuff happens.
Yeah.
And things get derailed and...
For sure. I mean, I'm not going to train rail you in any aspect. So if you're heading towards Baldur's Gate, but you decide that you want to take a massive detour and instead, I don't know, whatever, wander into one of the forests along the way or whatever it may be, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. Obviously, that's not how we play.
I mean, I won't purposely try to derail.
No, I mean,
if something that makes sense.
It's something that you want to pursue, by all means. Perhaps there's a castle I mentioned on the way, or you've got the map to the Sword Coast and you know there's a castle there and you feel you want to investigate it. By all means, you know, there's not going to be any kind of restriction in that sense. But it is in nature a bit more linear than a sandbox kind of campaign like the Dragon of Icespire Peak was claiming to be. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, rest assured there will be no train railing whatsoever.
We're using the companion system as well? Are you using the one that comes with Tasha's Cauldron or Dragon of Icespire Peak? Or I think you mentioned you were doing some slight tweaks to it as well, yeah?
I'm just going to stick to the one you were using. We will be using D&D Beyond, so it's all a bit more automated. It's easier to keep track of. So I'm just sticking to that. I was looking at some of the rules for companions that Matt Colville, I think, had written, but I've decided against it. I'm just sticking to what D&D provides. Funnily enough, we'll be talking about this as well. We are going to be using the new Dungeon Master's Guide, but funnily enough, there's no mention whatsoever of companions.
Yeah, you would have thought having included in different adventures, it would have been a sure bet to include those rules.
As a whole package kind of thing. But I suppose we still need to stick to Tasha's hideous laughter. Well, no.
That's a spell, yeah. Tasha's Cauldron, I think, sort of builds upon what's in Dragon of Icespire Peak. But I mean, you know, we had issues with them becoming little more than cannon fodder after level 2 or level 3. I mean, essentially what I started doing was I used RPG Tinker, and I would create like an NPC there with a class, and it sort of gives you like a very condensed character sheet with determined spells if there's any and all that stuff.
As far as I know, there are levels to these characters in D&D Beyond, where perhaps if you're playing with a warrior, you have a warrior level 1, warrior level 2, warrior level 3, and it goes leveling up as well. So I'll be using that. So as I mentioned now briefly, we will be using the new DM, the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, and the 2024 Player's Handbook.
Nice.
We haven't delved very much into it, and we obviously know the rules from playing previously and using the old rules. But if certain things come into play that we need to check, we will be checking with the new rules. There is an exception though. The character you're playing will be using the new Player Handbook, but there's something that you want to keep from the old one.
That's correct, yeah. I'm going to be playing a wild magic sorcerer, and although, as Al's saying, we're going to be using the new Player's Handbook, I wasn't too keen on the wild magic rules for the class in the new book, because, you know, if you've got wild magic, surely you've got it, and that's the source of your power. Whereas with the new Player Handbook, I can't remember what level it is, but it sort of kicks in rather than at level 1, I think possibly level 3.
I believe level 3, yeah.
And, you know, that didn't make sense. I'd already written my backstory probably a year and a half ago at this point. And, you know, it was the sort of the awakening of the powers of my character at a young age, which sort of led him to live the sort of life that he's lived. And I don't want to go into too much details to not spoil that character development for you, but it just wouldn't make any sense at this point. I'm playing quite an old character, so why would the wild magic suddenly awaken in him now? I like the idea of it being part there from the beginning, part of the backstory. And then, I mean, I won't lie, part of it as well was the thrill and the risk of having to roll on the wild magic table, even from episode 1, which, as Al said before, who knows, this may even be just a one episode campaign. I could end up casting a fireball centered on self as a squishy level 1. So, as we saw in the Dragon of Icespire Peak, for those of you that stuck around for the full campaign, Al did a solo play for his backstory of Shrew, and he was nearly killed by a rat. So
Yeah.
A fireball will certainly kill me.
You're gonna be squishy. I believe that's also been tweaked in the new rules, the fireball centered on self. If that ever was a thing, I think it has been tweaked so that it's not that devastating. But we can explore it a bit more as we go playing. Do you want to reveal anything else about your character, or you want to keep most of it under wraps?
I think most of it under wraps, but let's give some tidbits here. So as you know by now, I'm playing a wild magic sorcerer. I'm actually playing a half-elf. It's the first time I'm playing a elf variety of character. Also the first time I'm playing a magic user. You know as well that I'm playing a more elderly character, and being a half-elf, going to be quite old. I'm a bit concerned for my vocal cords.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah, I have got a voice planned already. He's called Arthurim Half-Elven, and he's going to make a repeating joke, I think, where they call him Arthurim because it sounds like half. So, bad joke, I know, my dad jokes.
Yeah, you're old.
And I'm old. Well, not as old as Arthurim's going to be.
No, I mean, your character is old.
Yeah.
It wasn't a jab at you or anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, what else can I say without ruining the story? Because quite a bit of that, I think, will come out in episode 1, parts of the backstory. So I don't really want to ruin too much of it.
Maybe leave it there.
Yeah. You know, the only thing I will share that doesn't spoil it is he's got this bird that reminds him of his sister. It was a gift from his mentor. Doesn't really know much about the bird or much about the little birdhouse that hangs from his staff. He's only recently been given that, so I'm hoping that sort of comes into play somewhere along the line of the story. So it will be as much a surprise for me as for you guys.
Yep, so as we did with the previous campaign, the Dragon of Icespire Peak, we want to introduce a character to the story more organically. So as not to say like, okay, Nick, introduce your character. It will be in the actual roleplay, perhaps, how we introduce it. And so we don't want to use episode 0 to give everything away of Nick's character. So you'll have to stick around and listen to episode 1 to get the finer details.
What about rules? Have we got any homebrewed rules? Are we sticking with that potions rule that we moved into towards the end, where if you use it as a bonus action, you got to roll, but if you down it as an action, you get the full benefits? Or any slight tweaks that perhaps our listeners should be aware of?
Yeah, we'll keep those for sure. I think they worked fine. So, like you said, you drink it as an action, it's full health, and as a bonus, you have to roll for it. And also the death mechanic where you roll.
The blind rolls.
Blind rolls, and for the sneaking as well, blind rolls.
The stealths, I really enjoyed those because it was fun knowing them as the DM, but seeing your nervous face as you're trying to sneak in or trying to get one up on the dragon in particular in the last few episodes.
And I think it works well for the listeners as well because you don't directly know what's going to happen. It's kind of fed to you slowly as the narrative goes on. I don't think there's any other rule changes, tweaks. If there are any that I decide to put in, I'll discuss it with Nick first, and then if we do decide to go with it, we'll explain it to you lovely listeners. Again, the length of the campaign is a bit in the air, really, because we thought that the Dragon of Icespire Peak was going to be a 10-episode thing.
I was convinced it was going to be.
Yeah, 10, 20 at max, and we all know how that ended. This similarly was going to be a short thing, meant to be, but I'm feeling it's not going to be. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, those of you who listen to the Dragon of Icespire Peak know we play with a very heavy focus on roleplay and on narrative. So, you know, things that perhaps in other games would be you go and you ask a question and then the DM gives you the answer. Here, like the whole interactions are usually played out completely in character, so almost in real time as well, particularly tavern scenes and traveling scenes. And then obviously the dice determine. Those of you who listened through to the Dragon of Icespire Peak would have realized that probably like half the campaign was due to certain rolls that happened and certain curses that were inflicted. I won't go into too much detail in case you haven't listened to it and you want to go back and your interest is now piqued.
Yeah, so it's a bit up in the air. We won't make any promises as to the length of this season and this campaign. As I said before, we are using D&D Beyond, and we will be using the map system, so we'll be moving away from pen and paper in that regards and start using the D&D Beyond maps on our tablets. Again, we'll be using the character sheets there as well.
But rolling real dice. Because they feel real nice.
Yeah, the tactile essence of the dice is what makes it. It's not the same rolling digital dice, you know?
No, I can't get used to it.
Nah, the weight of those dice in your hand as you roll them. The tension. Yeah.
Especially when you've got a juicy spell or juicy attack and you can feel almost the power in your hands.
Yeah, exactly. You like to see them roll in real time and the sound they make. Then, what excuse are we going to have to buy more?
Yeah. Actually, I haven't bought dice.
No, I know why.
I need to buy dice for this new campaign.
Oh, true. Yeah, you do. Probably I do as well, because I want to be rolling high. Not really, but maybe we need to buy dice, like a little treat to ourselves.
I wonder if it's a player curse you've got, or if it extends now to DMing as well.
Probably it extends to everything, to be fair. We did buy a program called Dungeon Alchemist. It's quite an impressive piece of software. You can buy it on Steam. We are not sponsored by them or anything, but...
Not yet.
Not yet. But we just wanted to mention it because it is the program that I'll be mostly using to draft up maps of the areas, because it's always immersive to have a map of the fight, because it's always immersive to have a map of where the fight is going down, or the dungeon you explore, or the house you're visiting. Anything like that. So it's quite a useful program where you can make amazing maps in seconds, literally. You just drag and the map populates itself with all kinds of decorations and walls and torches and everything. So it's quite useful.
And it's got a handy feature as well, doesn't it? Which works really nicely with D&D Beyond. You can export the map and then import it into the platform, so...
Yeah, well, you can import it into D&D Beyond as you can any PNG, really, but you can export maps as PNG from an orthographic top view, like a simple map, flat map. You also can have perspective to give it more of a 3D look, but still from the top. And also you can export it in full 3D. You can have an image. So I can pass you some images of the 3D looking environment and also have the map from top-down view.
Yeah, so I'm trying to know what exactly can I see.
Yeah.
Easier. And I guess as well, being a podcast, it makes it easier for you to actually give a narration and a description of what we're seeing, rather than those squares that I was using, the typical battle grid maps, and then suddenly panicking like, shit, I now need to describe this cavern or this room.
Yeah, it would be all predetermined in the sense that I've already drawn it out and figured it out, and it's a matter of looking at it and using that source to describe it, making my life probably easier. There will be times where maybe we just draft up a rough map because there's been a fight which was unexpected or whatever. That's always going to happen. But then again, I could use this program to
generate a room.
Generate a room.
In a tavern. Just quickly type in tavern, also generate one, and then you can describe what you're seeing rather than trying to make it up as you go along.
Exactly. So it's a very useful tool to have indeed. Also, for those of you that very generously have donated during the years, during our last campaign especially, you will maybe be aware that certain items Shrew never used, I never used, I didn't have the chance to use them. Worry not, we will be going over what we still have, and those items will now appear in Nick's campaign. Similarly, thank you very much Neil Ravos for your donation of the 3 potions, the last donation we received. Those potions will appear in Nick's campaign, or my campaign for Nick, and we will give you the very deserved shout out in that episode, possibly episode 1.
Important just to clarify for those who haven't heard season 1, which was the Dragon Iceberg Peak, just to give a bit of context, what we did was, we created our Buy Me a Coffee page, and rather than just have, your typical support the channel, make a donation, we decided to go down a almost Hunger Games themed route where our little mascot Ignis opened a shop and you could purchase items from the shop as a donation. So it was a fun way, we thought, of being able to draw the audience into the stories we tell, the adventures we play, and it actually gives you a sense of actually participating and being part of that world, because by making that donation, if you bought a +1 sword, or you bought a shield, or you bought armor, or even something like potions, The DM in Dragon of Ice by Peak obviously was myself. Now it's Al in this campaign. Then work said item into the campaign itself. So, if Offerim finds this sword, you'll know that you've directly influenced that story because that sword wasn't in the story, or that potion that you come across wasn't meant to be there, but you've directly influenced and shaped that story. So it's just a fun way to interact with you guys and, make it a bit more meaningful than just making a donation, which we greatly appreciate anyway, but this makes it more fun for us as well.
Yeah, that's right. In that shop Nick mentioned, in the Buy Me a Coffee page, we had various items from potions to swords to armor. I'm not sure if we are going to have that for this new campaign. I'm not sure if the shop is going to be there with all those different options, but there will be potions still. You can still donate potions, a one-off payment of potions, which will appear in the game. And I'm sure Nick will need.
Oh, you know it.
That's been our episode 0, a very brief introduction to the new campaign coming up. I hope you've enjoyed it and kind of set you in the mood for some D&D, and I hope you enjoy the season to come.
I know, I'm looking forward to it.
As am I. Bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but looking forward to it.
I know I'm excited to play it, and I hope you are too. We hope to see you soon. Very, very soon. As we delve
into the dungeon.